In Pokemon Infinite Fusion, you can fuse together any two Pokemon, and today I'm going to attempt a hardcore Nuzlocke, but with a twist. I will only be able to use Bulbasaur fusions, meaning we'll have a weakness to fire, flying, and ice type Pokemon. The rules to a hardcore Nuzlocke are simple. If a Pokemon faints, it is boxed forever. I have to catch the first Pokemon on each route. I can't use items in battle. I have to play in set mode, and I can't put my Pokemon's level above the gym leader's ace Pokemon. I also wanted to add a twist to this run, where I cannot evolve any of the Pokemon I catch. With that being said, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Let's get into the video. With all my Nuzlockes, I like to set a theme for the Pokemon's names, so if you guess it, make sure to drop it down in the comments. We start off by meeting our rival Thanos and are greeted with 3 Pokemon in front of us. We have a Smoochum, an obvious no, Murkrow, and finally, Honedge. Naturally, we pick Honedge and we have our first rival fight of the Nuzlocke. Thanos has a Smookrow, which is Ice Flying type and a fusion of Smoochum and Murkrow. We start the battle with Honedge, who firms a lick and sets up a Swords Dance. We are then hit with an Astonish and hit back with a Tackle. A lick gets us down to 2 HP and we finish the fight with a Tackle, barely surviving our first fight. Then we give Professor Oak his parcel and he hands us our Pokeballs to officially start the Nuzlocke. We get our first encounter on Route 1, which turns out to be a Kyurem. A great early game encounter due to Dragon Rage. We move on and grab our gift Pokemon from the Pokemart, which turns out to be a Gligar. I would have rather have been a Gliscor, but beggars can't be choosers, and on Route 22 we encounter a Magcargo, which gives us a Grass Rock typing, which nicely counters flying types. At the end of Route 22 we have our second rival fight against Thanos. This time he has 2 Pokemon and leads off with Cottonroth, a grass normal type who Captain America swiftly removes after a couple Swords Dances. Then comes Smoocho, who avoids my second Fury Cutter and paralyzes me, but couldn't survive a Vine Whip. Another easy rival fight, but trust me, they get harder. On Route 2 we encounter a Reuniclus, and in Viridian Forest we get a Milotic. In the Secret Garden we get a Raichu. This gives us a good Psychic, Water and Electric type. After travelling through Viridian Forest we get to Pewter City where we face Brock, the first gym leader. We have a clear type advantage, but anything could happen. Our team going into the fight is Captain America, our Honedge Bulbasaur fusion, Iron Man, our Kyurem Bulbasaur fusion, Hulk, our Magcargo Bulbasaur fusion, Doctor Strange, our Bulbasaur Reuniclus fusion, Scarlet Witch, our Milotic Bulbasaur fusion, and finally Thor, our Raichu Bulbasaur fusion. So with that being said, our first gym fight starts. I lead with Iron Man and Brock leads with Aegiron. After his initial King Shield and Sturdy, Aegiron is taken out in 2 hits from Dragon Raid and Chicago is taken out in 1 hit. And with that, we have our first gym badge. While heading on to Route 3, Professor Oak's assistant tells me there are rare Pokemon hiding in the grass, and this Palkia did not disappoint. We then head on to the Pokemon Center and buy a Magikarp from this fisherman. It turns into a Kakuna, who is swiftly boxed for the rest of the run, never to be seen again. In Mount Moon we get extremely lucky and find a Mimikyu. With its disguise ability, he's an extremely valuable encounter. Further along in Mount Moon we run into Team Rocket, who is trying to do an experiment to fuse 3 Pokemon together. We jump in to stop it and Giovanni sends in his scientist to stop me. He is no threat though and only has a Bichu, who after some interesting plays from me, we take out with only 2 HP remaining. Then we grab the Dome Fossil because Dome Fossil on top. And at Route 4 we get a Tentacruel. With that, it's time for a second gym fight, Misty. Our team going into the fight is Ant-Man, our Mimikyu and Bulbasaur fusion, Iron Man again, along with Doctor Strange, Loki, our Palkia Bulbasaur fusion, Thor and Scarlet Witch. He starts with a Ledwag and I start with Thor. We have a huge type advantage and this gym fight should not be difficult. Ledwag starts off with the Rain and I one-shot it with Thunderbolt. Misty follows up with a Golvesta and after a Flail, it is also one hit with a Thunderbolt. With that being said, we have 2 badges and it's time for Nugget Bridge. On the way to Nugget Bridge, Thanos ambushes us again and starts with a Cellarfish. I send out Ant-Man, but I'm unable to make a dent, so after a minimize, I switch into Thor. After hitting a Thunderbolt for about half and taking 3 rollouts, I am forced to switch again into Scarlet Witch, who is lucky enough to live on 20 HP. After that, I am forced yet again to switch, this time into Ant-Man, who has Disguise which allows him to survive and use up Cellarfish's last rollout. We then switch into Loki, and after we miss, and Thanos uses a potion, I've had enough, and bring out Iron Man to Dragon Rage, and miss 3 shots, meaning I have to switch again to Ant-Man to firm a hit and take it out with a Shadow Sneak. Thanos then sends in Cyndail, who Loki takes out with a Water Pulse, as Smootcrow is taken out with a Power Gem, and finally Darkeron, who is taken out with a single Water Pulse. This fight was very annoying and frustrating, but relatively easy. After that irritating fight, we clear Nugget Bridge with no issues and meet Bill, who has fused himself with a Rhydon. He asks us to unfuse him, and we don't ask any questions. After we unfuse him, he gives us the SSN ticket, and on Route 5 we find a Shuckle, who is more useful than you might think. Before the 3rd gym, it is time for the SSN, and while on the SSN, Thanos challenges us again to a fight. He leads with Geninch and we lead with Doctor Strange. A crunch takes us into yellow, and after we miss a Razor Leaf, we are forced to switch to Scarlet Witch, who hits herself in confusion before taking Geninch out with 2 water guns. We are forced to switch when Thanos sends out Flash Slash. Loki firms a Fire Fang before one-shotting with a Water Pulse. Thanos follows up with Jinkro, who can't live a Power Gem, and Thanos' last Pokemon is an Egolith, who we take out in one hit with a Water Pulse. Lieutenant Surge is next, and our team going into the fight is Iron Man, Thor, Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, and Loki. The battle starts with Surge sending out Trap Turn, and us sending out Ant-Man, and after 2 Razor Leaves it is taken down, sending out Belmite, who after paralysing us and receiving 2 potions, as well as lots and lots of stalling, it finally is taken out by Ant-Man. Surge sends out its last Pokemon, Corchu, an amazing Corsola Raichu fusion, who forces us to switch Ant-Man out after 2 ancient powers, and sends in Thor for a Raichu face-off, which we ultimately win, giving us our 3rd gym badge. At Route 9 we get our very own Corsola, and outside the power plant we run into a Jolteon, while in Rock Tunnel we get another electric type Garvantula. In Lavender Tower, Thanos yet again ambushes us and leads with Wigglychoke. We lead with Scarlet Witch, and after a lot of back and forth and Thanos using 2 potions, we finally take Wigglychoke out with only 8 HP remaining. We recover twice and take Manorb out with a single Razor Leaf. Jinkro comes in and we don't have anything against it, so are forced to switch to Loki. He takes it out with a Power Gem, and Thanos' last Pokemon is Slowix, who is eventually taken out by Iron Man with a couple Dragon Breaths and an Ice Beam. After that fight, we find out Team Rocket has kidnapped Mr. Fuji and set off to get a Silph Scope. On the way, we find a Latios on Route 7, and we meet up with Erica south of Celadon City and head into the sewers to clear out Team Rocket. After clearing out Team Rocket, we find out Giovanni has beaten Erica, and now it's our turn to face him. He starts the battle fittingly with Mega-2, and we lead off with Thor. This matchup is not great for us, so we make an immediate switch into Iron Man and firm a Magical Leaf. An Ice Beam takes him to just over half, and he retaliates with another Magical Leaf. After a second Ice Beam, Giovanni uses a Max Potion and switches into Sylvie Lord, who firms an Ice Beam. We switch into Ant-Man, and he uses a rest for some reason. After Elite Siege and 2 Razor Leafs, Sylvie Lord is taken out, and Dragios comes in next. After 3 Shadow Sneaks, it is only Mega-2 left, who poses no threat to us anymore, and is taken out with another 2 Shadow Sneaks. A relatively easy battle, and it's time for the 4th gym. Now you're probably wondering why we haven't cut straight to the gym leader. That's because the last trainer before the gym has an Exeggutor, and as you just saw, it killed Iron Man. We then switch into Thor, who is unable to do anything, and also falls. We then switch into Loki, who is a massive power gem, and also falls to the Exeggutor. We then switch in Doctor Strange, who luckily is able to take it out with a Psyshock. This only leaves us with 3 Mons, meaning we'll have to rebuild before the gym fight. So after rebuilding the team, we have Doc Ock, our Tentacle Bulbasaur fusion, Spider-Man, our Garvantula Bulbasaur fusion, and Falcon, our Latios Bulbasaur fusion, along with Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, and Scarlet Witch. The fight begins and Erica leads with Terralia. We lead with Doc Ock, who hits with a 4 times effective poison jab to one-shot Erica. She then sends out Clefleaf, who barely survives a poison jab, but falls to a second one shortly after. Erica's final Pokemon is Glutuff, who falls to a final poison jab, giving us our easiest fight and our 4th gym badge. With our 4th gym badge in hand, we save Mr. Fuji from Lavender Tower, and he gives us the Poke Flute. On the way to Fuchsia City, we run into a rocket grunt guarding the way who challenges us to a double battle and proceeds to knock out Spider-Man and almost wipes out Falcon. However, we can take him out easily after and are another Pokemon down. Now this is where I make a near fatal mistake. I forgot to get my Snorlax encounter and challenge Koga's gym. Instead, I went straight to Silphco to fight Giovanni, and as you will see, I was very underleveled. After making our way through Silphco, we are ambushed yet again by Thanos, who starts the battle with Vilepluff, and we lead with Doc Ock, who eradicates Vilepluff with 2 poison jabs. Thanos then sends out Jinkro, who is a real problem now that Loki is no longer with us. We switch into Electro, our Jolteon Bulbasaur fusion, who eats a foul play and counters with a Thunder Fang that doesn't even do half. We are then killed by an avalanche and are another electric fusion down. We send in Ant-Man to do a little bit of damage using Feint Attack and Shadow Sneak, but have to switch after surviving a massive foul play. We switch into Falcon, who hits a Dragon Breath before having to be switched out for Scarlet Witch, who survives an avalanche but can't survive a follow-up foul play. It's up to Doctor Strange to finish it off after surviving a body slam. Thanos then sends in Goethe, who takes out Doctor Strange with a Sucker Punch. We send out Falcon, who after a lot of stalling is able to take it out and faces Thanos' next mon, Kugia, who is no real threat, and we take out in a couple Dragon Breaths. Finally, Thanos sends in Kirakuno, who Ant-Man stalls against and is able to get it down into the yellow before being switched into Falcon, who is able to take it out with a Dragon Breath. After that intense battle and losing 3 valued team members, we are forced into a double battle against Giovanni. He sends out Shelon and Billion, whilst Thanos and I send out Doc Ock and Vilepluff. A poison jab gets Shelon to just over half and poisons it, but it counter back with a superpower which does the same damage to me. Thanos uses a Hyper Voice which narrowly doesn't kill Shelon and does minimal damage to Billion. Giovanni uses a max potion on Shelon, whilst we go for a poison jab on Billion, and Thanos goes for another Hyper Voice. I use another poison jab on Shelon, hoping for the kill to no avail, and I hit back with a Brine that kills Doc Ock, leaving us with only 2 Pokemon left. However, Thanos is able to take them both out with a Hyper Voice, meaning Giovanni only has 2 mons left, Duggish and Hootink. We send out Falcon, who gets hit with a massive Moonblast which almost knocks us out, while we retaliate with a little bit of damage. We have to switch into Ant-Man and hope we can get something to finish them off. A Moonblast breaks out of skies and we take Duggish out with a Seed Bomb. Luckily, Hootink has no moves that can hurt us and we finally take it out. On Route 12 we talk to Koga's daughter and wake up the Snorlax. It turns into a Tauros, and further along the route we run into an Arbok in the grass. It's now time to face the 5th gym, Koga. Our new and improved team going into Koga's gym is Hydra, our Arbok Bulbasaur fusion, Ant-Man, Namor, our Corsola Bulbasaur fusion, Groot, our Shuckle Bulbasaur fusion, Surtur, our Tauros Bulbasaur fusion, and Falcon. The fight begins and Koga leads with Nidoperm, while we lead with Hydra. We are able to paralyse it, but can't do much more than that. We then switch into Ant-Man, who is able to finish it off with a couple Seed Bombs. He then switches into Ekdos, who gets the same fate and makes 2 Seed Bombs before it falls. Koga then switches into the monster, Metcrawl, who Groot hits with an Earthquake before Koga switches to Munchkins, who can't live 2 Earthquakes. Finally, Metcrawl comes back in and falls to an Earthquake. We now have 5 badges and it's now time to move on to get the 6th. In Fuchsia City we get a Genesect, and it's time for the 6th gym. Our team going into the fight is Ant-Man, Groot, Namor, Surtur, Falcon, and Hydra. Sabrina starts the fight with Luitar, and if I'm being honest, I'm bricking it. Ant-Man flinches to a Dark Pulse, which also busts our disguise. This means we have to switch to Groot to tank a hit, which he does well, and retaliates with a big Bug Bite. We heal up, but it's not worth it due to the damage taken in Sandstorm, so I decide to sacrifice Groot to the Sandstorm, and he takes Luitar with him. Ant-Man comes back out to face Slugzion, and one shot with a huge Shadow Claw. Sabrina then sends in Ursaring, who is immune to Ghost type moves, so makes Shadow Claw useless. We switch to Surtur and set up Leech Seeds and a couple Seed Bombs, and residual damage finally takes the Pink Bear out. Sabrina's last mob is Mute Orb. We set up another Leech Seed but get paralysed and have to switch into Ant-Man to finish the job, which he does with a Shadow Claw, and with that we have our 6th gym badge. In the Burned Mansion, the static Magmar encounter turns into a Rayquaza, and we get Blaine and force him back into his gym for our 7th gym battle. Our 7th gym battle begins with Blaine sending in Magnub while we send in Namor. We're able to firm a flamethrower and clap back with a brine, which one-shots the red blob. Blaine then sends out Reshidash, who decimates Namor with a fusion flare. In comes Falcon, who barely survives a flare blitz on 6 HP and hits back with a Dragon Breath. Blaine then goes for a full restore and we go for Dragon Breath, which paralyses Reshidash and gives us a fighting chance. Blaine switches into Honma and we use Dragon Breath again and get the paralysis, meaning we can recover and get back almost full health. After a back and forth, we finally take it out and back comes Reshidash, who lives the Dragon Breath but takes Falcon and itself out with a flare blitz, leaving only one more mon for Ant-Man to face, Marrow-Iron, who we can take out with a few seed bombs. This was our hardest gym fight and gives us our 7th badge, leaving only Giovanni left. In Offshore Road we get an Octillery, in the Burnt Mansion we get a Fortress, and on Treasure Island we get a Golem. They are surprise tools that will help us later. With those encounters, it is now time to face Giovanni and his triple fusion of the legendary Kanto birds. The Pokemon going into this fight is Explosion 1 and Explosion 2, our Golem Bulbasaur fusion and Fortress Bulbasaur fusion. They are our strategy for the birds, as they will just explode, do half damage with Explosion 1, and then take it out with Explosion 2. It's a bit cheesy, but you got to do what you got to do. Now for our final gym battle, the team is Punisher, our Octillery Bulbasaur fusion, War Machine, our Genesect Bulbasaur fusion, Ant-Man, Surtur, Fin Fan Fu our Rayquaza Bulbasaur fusion, and Hydra. So the last battle begins and Giovanni sends in Crocoquaza, and we start with Punisher, who decimates him with an Ice Beam. Out comes Jigglyterra, who hits us with a nasty double edge, leaving us with 13 HP, and we hit it with a mean Bubble Beam. We switch into Ant-Man, predicting a full restore, and hit it with a Seed Bomb, doing just over half. Giovanni uses another full restore, and we hit 2 more Seed Bombs. Jiggly then falls. Next comes Drobble, who falls to a 1-hit Shadow Claw. Giovanni's penultimate Pokemon is Riper King, who eats a Seed Bomb and full restores. We switch into Wormzine to try and set up a Leech Seed, but are obliterated by a Stone Edge. Surtur comes in next to set up a Leech Seed and hits a Seed Bomb, but having to switch to Fin Fang Foom, who takes it out with a Dragon Pulse. Giovanni's last Pokemon is Vaporeon, who has a 4 times weakness to grass, so 1 switch to Ant-Man and 2 Seed Bombs later gets us our final gym badge. On Route 20 we get a great encounter, Gardevoir, and on Kindle Road we get an even better encounter, Giratina. On Route 22 Thanos wants a rematch and sends out Hapkoff, who can't survive 2 Bubble Beams from the Punisher. Hapkoff is followed up by Beefing, who also can't survive 2 Psychics from the Punisher. This man is on a rampage. Then Jinkro comes in and we have to switch. We go into Ant-Man, who is not affected by a Body Slam, and hit back with a Play Rough that does a quarter damage. We switch into Black Widow, who narrowly survives an Avalanche on 13 HP, before I switch back into Ant-Man, who nullifies a Body Slam yet again. We hit back with another Play Rough, leaving Jinkro in the reds, and after surviving a foul play, we take it out with another Play Rough. Thanos sends in a literal run-ender Growlithe, forcing me to switch into Hydra, who is penetrated to oblivion by Precipice Blades. Fin Fan Foom comes in and is able to take it out with a mix of Dragon Pulse and Extreme Speed. After that monster, we have Abby, who is taken out by Surtur with a Leech Seed and Thunderbolt, with Thanos' last Pokemon being Dutig, who is taken out with Seed Bomb and Thunderbolt. Our final encounter is a Kingler on Route 26. Finally, it's time for the Elite Four. Lorelei is the first member as an Ice-type specialist. She begins with Delita, and I begin with Black Widow. Delita misses its first attack, and Moonblast takes it into the yellow. After 2 full restores, I get frustrated and switch into Abomination, who finishes it off with a Crab Hammer. Out come Tauros, and a Giga Drain does massive damage, and I make the mistake of using Leech Seed against the Grass type. Out comes Surtur, as Tauros goes for another Giga Drain. 2 Flamethrowers take it out, and third is Syndras, who tries to use a double edge against Ant-Man but fails. After we exchange Rollouts and Shadow Claws, I am forced to switch out into Dormammu, who forces Syndras to switch into Magon 2, who counters my Shadow Force. We hit it with an Aura Sphere, a second Aura Sphere takes it out, and Syndras is back again, only to fall to a Shadow Force. Lorelei's last mon is Ditzer, who is one-shot by an Aura Sphere. Bruno is the next Elite Four member and is a fighting type specialist. He starts with Chan Chan, and we start with Black Widow, but are unable to do any significant damage and am forced to switch into Abomination. As Chan Chan goes for a Reflect and a Light Screen, we set up a Leech Seed as damage and moves will not be as effective due to screens. After some stalling and crab hammer, we are able to take Chan Chan out and Rosenape is sent out next. We switch into Fin Fan Foom and we take it out with a single air slash. Whimsy Champ gets the same treatment and goes down to 1 air slash. Out comes Terras and we switch into Ant-Man, who is able to take it out after 5 seed bombs. Bruno's last mon is Hitmonbusken, who Dormammu and Ant-Man are able to take out, winning us the fight with still no casualties. Agatha is the third Elite Four member and is a ghost type specialist. She starts with Honchula and we lead off with Black Widow. We trade a Hex and a Shadow Ball before Agatha uses a full restore and we take it out with a Shadow Ball. Agatha sends in Cathode, who is unable to do any real damage to our mons before Ant-Man is able to take it out with a few Shadow Claws. Chandrai comes out next and we switch into Surtur, who takes a big feint attack, forcing us to switch into Black Widow, who eats another 2 feint attacks before hitting a Draining Kiss, restoring most of our HP. One more Draining Kiss takes it out and Agatha sends in Munchley, an amazing Pac-Man fusion, who is taken out in 2 Moonblasts. Agatha's last mon is Cofferty, who hits us with a big Psychic before we take it out with a Shadow Ball, leaving us with only 1 Elite Four member left. Lance is the last Elite Four member and starts with Slow. Well, yet again I start with Black Widow, who is able to take Slow out with 1 Moonblast. Lance then follows up with Grano, who also falls to a Moonblast. As if deja vu, Lance's next Pokemon, Diva, also falls to a single Moonblast. Lance's 4th mon, Mr. Nier, also falls after a Draining Kiss and 2 Moonblasts, with Lance's last one being Pukidra, who falls to 3 Draining Kisses, giving us our easiest Elite Four fight yet. Now it is time for the final fight of the run, the champion, Thanos. He leads off with a Miss Marvel, and we begin with Ant-Man. A Shadow Claw drops it down into red and forces Thanos to use all of his 4 restores, before we finally take it out, taking the fight to a 6v5. Thanos then brings out his starter, Jinkro, who is a major issue for our team. We make a bad switch into Surtur, who gets absolutely obliterated by a blizzard. We switch into Ant-Man and the disguise eats a blizzard and we hit back with a Play Rough. Jinkro misses its next blizzard and we hit a Shadow Claw. Another blizzard takes out Ant-Man, who has been with us since the second gym, and turns the fight in Thanos' favour. It is now a 4v5. We send in an Abomination to protect against Jinkro's last blizzard and set up a Leech Seed. A Ring Out gets 44 HP and we protect to heal up to 94 HP. We switch into Black Widow, who eats a Night Slash and hits back with a Moonblast, making it a 4v4. Thanos sends in Stun Delete and we switch into Abomination, where I make an error and try to Leech Seed a Grass type again. We hit a Crab Hammer, which takes it down to yellow, but we are taken out by a Spit Up. The fight is now a 3v4 and Fin Fan Foom is in, takes out Stun Delete. Out comes Togatops and we get a lucky freeze off one of our Ice Beams, and after a few Air Slashes it is a 3v2. And Thanos' penultimate Pokemon is Duggett, who is no match for an Ice Beam. Thanos' final mom is Darkdraw, who falls to a one-shot Dragon Pulse, leaving us the Kanto champion and officially completing the Nuzlocke. I'll be honest, I was doubtful with some of these fights, like the Triple Fusion fight, Blaine and Lorelei, but after a lot of luck and about 6 reruns, we were able to complete it. After all that, it's time to see our final team in the Hall of Fame. We start off with Ant-Man, probably the MVP of this run, being a safe switch in and doing massive damage. Black Widow, a newer member to the team but able to tank hits and deal huge damage back. Dormammu, not as big as impact as I thought, but still a solid member of the team. Fin Fang Foom, an incredible mom, able to do huge damage and tank hits while being very quick. Abomination, a great Stormon and our last encounter before the Elite Four, able to block Jinkro's last blizzard, putting the fight in our favour. And finally Surtur. He was there, I guess. Didn't really do much, but still valued nonetheless. And with that, the run is over. Please, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. It really helps and it is free. We will also be attempting this run with Ivysaur next, so stay tuned for that. With that being said, have a great rest of the day and peace.